Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White. I'm your host. I'm the founder of the Bobby White Foundation, along here with my wonderful co-host.
Good morning. I'm Bonnie Snyder.
Hey, Bonnie. Last week's episode was awesome, don't you
Isn't
think?
Tony amazing?
Tony was so good, and the information that he gave and us was tremendous. And part of what they're doing is kind of reflects as to what the foundation is doing, and together we're going to be able to reach more people. So our foundation is going to partner with his organization. Is that Vets
Counseling
Vets?
And I hope people had an opportunity to attend his the event that he did, which I don't think that I can't think of any other organization that has done an event like that where it celebrates people who were lost to suicide, by celebrating and embracing the lost survivors,
Especially in the veterans community.
Yes.
That's I don't think we do have with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention one day a year, Suicide Loss Survivors Day, which is always the Saturday before Thanksgiving. But what his organization does for veterans families, for lost survivors, is it's needed. It's needed because they need to have a voice. We all need to have a voice.
Well, it is, and some of the things that he highlighted was, for the veterans community, while you're in an active duty, you, whether you are the veteran yourself or the family of a veteran, being active duty, you have access to so many resources, like almost, I don't want to say it's like that simple, but it's almost like you snap your fingers and there's there. I need to go to the doctor. I call. I need an appointment for, and I'll use my children for example. I need a doctor's appointment for my children. I, picked up the phone, called, had an appointment for them right away. If they were struggling with something, and if I needed to get them, mental health services, it was there and readily available. All that went away, not so much for me, because I, maintained, my medical care, after, when I retired. My children did not, they did not, they did not get, continued care. I mean, I guess, I could have, paid, astronomical, insurance fee for that to happen, but, they get nothing. Now, Devin will, be able to get some care, being my dependent now. However, but then he's 11.
Right.
My older children, nothing. I wonder if family members were able to be provided services, would Patrick still be here? Now, arguably one would say, oh, but Patrick's an adult. True. But he's still my, he's still
right.
my child.
Right.
And I know that's pushing a little, you don't get that as, as a civilian. Once your children turn 18, they're off your insurance. 26, is it?
Yeah, I think it is
insurance. Now. But even still.
Yeah, but even still, if, issues manifested earlier.
Yes.
It always goes back to hindsight.
Yeah, some of the things my children went through as teenagers where, again, fortunately, I had the resources that I can get them into, civilian care.
Right.
However, there are families that are not that fortunate and, do not have, the resources to, take their, themselves or their family members to, someone, whether it's medical or mental health care, and I think that's tragic.
It is. Well, that's why organizations like us and organizations like Tony are on the ground in our communities, trying to make a difference, trying to bring the awareness, having those difficult conversations that even he's willing to have when it concerns the military and the mental health of veterans.
What did he say? I'm not going to let you forget.
Nope,
I'm
nope.
not going to let you forget.
And, that's why we're here too.
Yes.
That's why we're here too. But, we just got into that so fast. I want to thank really John and Rob from WeBeam TV again for all the work and support they do for us. Sometimes it can get kind of crazy around here, but it's always fun.
It is always fun.
So, again, thank you State Farm for their 2-month fundraising efforts and dropping off a check a couple weeks ago to the foundation. That is much appreciated. They did a wonderful job, and also Gulfside Custom T-shirts. Of course, it's almost like every other week I'm wearing a shirt. I even purchased like 4 of them, and I can wear them almost every day. But you can purchase them on the website there, and they can. You can either pick them up locally or you can have them shipped to you. And this is just the first design that we have going. Of course, it's in honor of our Purple Folder program, which was our first grant-funded program that we're continuing. And we're going to be adding Vets Counseling Vets to our information. And they're also going to be a link on our website to get a hold of them. So we can add them to as another community partner, because like we said last week, not one organization can do this alone. We've all got to work together. It's too big of an issue. It's way bigger than just one of us.
Military vernacular is, the more boots we have on the ground, we got to put the boots on the ground.
Yep. And that's what we continue to strive for. So we've been started working through this book, Progressing Through Grief, and kind of every time I think we get lost in a chapter and don't get as far as we think we are going to get. But we're kind of, I think, this week we're going to focus on self-care and hopefully dive into, and that's chapter 2. If any of you want to work along with us, you can get this book on Amazon. And if you go to smile.amazon.com and choose the Bobby White Foundation as your charity of choice, a portion of the purchase price will be donated to the foundation. And what is the chapter 3 is Setbacks and Solutions. So let's see how far we get today.
I was so excited. I am I love Amazon. I do a lot of shopping on Amazon. And I found it very. I had like one of those yippee moments when I ordered something here recently, and in my email box it was like you've just made an impact on the Bobby White Foundation. And I was like, yes.
That is so cool.
Yes. I was like, oh my gosh. And they tell you when you've made an impact, and they followed it up with, let us show you what impact, not only you're having on your charity of choice, but what the Amazon Smile, program does, and guys, we know Amazon is a huge, a billion-dollar entity, and for them to take a portion of proceeds from stuff that we're buying anyway, and donating it to specific charities of choice, I think speaks for them as an agency or as a business. I did not know that Amazon Smile exists, or I've seen it and just never really processed it, paid attention. And I'm thinking to myself, how much money I've spent on Amazon that could have gone to other organizations to know about it now. and to know I'm not spending any more than
No,
what I
and
would on,
mostly it's stuff you're going to be purchasing anyways. Quite honestly, I didn't know about it either until I started the foundation. And I've been buying from Amazon for years.
yes.
And even prior to starting my own foundation, the same thing. There's other charities I could have donated to if I would have known. So, even if you don't choose our foundation, which we really hope you do, there's a lot of worthwhile charities out there
Absolutely.
that may mean something to you or your family or friends, and they actually tally how much of an impact that you're making, but they also let you know the impact of the whole organization and what all these donations are doing for charities all over the place.
And and I think as we're talking about charities and giving and whatnot, that's a nice segue into the chapter that we're looking at now. Coping through self-care, because whether you're giving to or giving back,
Right.
I don't know about anybody else, but when I whether you call it paying forward, whether you call it giving to, whether you call it giving back, I always get a sense of I don't know, that, goodness, that, that felt so good, to be able to do that, to help someone, whether, some people who are, more fortunate than others, let me spread the wealth, to use that vernacular, let me give back. Or I know, when in my work and what led me to the field that I'm in right now, it is, I think about, somebody was there for me when I was in a place of darkness. And if I could pay that forward, and give to somebody, if I could do for someone what someone once did for me, even if it's one person, I'm all in. I'm all in.
Well, and many of these authors and doctors and professionals say that if you're feeling bad for you're going through a really hard time, one way that does, and it's a brain chemistry thing, I think, is if you can help somebody else, it changes your whole mental attitude.
It is a brain chemistry thing.
And
It releases all of those, positive chemicals in our brain, that, when we do, for others.
well, and that's why I started the foundation. But it was more because there weren't those people there for us, and we want to be those people that can be there to help others. And it's not always easy for us either,
Right.
helping people going through this, but it's important, and it I mean, for me, it's kind of, that's part of my self-care is being able to be out there in the community. People know more and more, if they hear about somebody going through a suicide loss, now it's, you need to call Tammy White. Have you heard of the Bobby White Foundation? And we'll be there. We can get you resources. So, and it's hard, but that's what we got to do in order to battle this, right?
And in this chapter, she starts off with focusing on yourself. And when I hear focusing on yourself, the one word for me anyway that comes to mind is the word selfish. It's okay to be selfish. And unfortunately, when people hear that word selfish, it always has that negative connotation on it. Where I know in some of the groups and individuals that I work with, in my other life, I tell people, let's take a step back and dissect that word selfish. And I ask them, what do you think of when you hear the word selfish? And it's like, well, I don't really, people don't care about somebody else, or there's, and it's inconsiderate. It is, nobody else matters but you. And I said, okay, and I understand that. Let's put another spin on it. And if I looked at you and said, it's okay to be selfish. What would you think about that? And sometimes I get like that. Did you just say that? And it brings me back to, how, we all think about when we are, think about when you're on the airplane and you hear the flight attendant, the flight crew giving you the instructions. And the one thing that they say, if your oxygen mask falls down, remember to put your mask on first before you, try to help anybody else. And, some people are like, oh, that's so silly, to use that as an example. However, it's important because that in itself is a great illustration to, let people know if we're not taking care of self, we can't take care of anybody else.
You can't. No, you cannot be there to help anybody else. You have to take care of yourself. That's it, and you shouldn't have guilt about it.
Yeah.
You need that me time.
Mm-hmm.
COVID has helped a lot of us have to do that kind of, even if it has been hard in the past. But you cannot feel guilty about taking care of yourself, because if you don't, there's not going to be anything left for anybody else.
What I found, especially, after, I lost Pat, was having people remind me, take care of yourself. I think I've shared, multiple times, about, the one, the team that I work on, my work. I shouldn't say it like that. Work. My other life, I'm going to refer to my other life, how, my coworkers, would, come over, have you eaten? Eating was, and that, and she talks about that in this chapter. Eating was the last thing I thought on my mind. The first person that came over, and like I said, it's the nurse that's on our team. Not that it was planned that we'll send the nurse to her first. It was, in terms of who's accessible like right now, and it just happened that she was accessible at the moment. Give me your address, I'm bringing you food. I would have never thought, food was the last thing on my mind.
Oh, yeah.
And, she was like, I'm bringing you breakfast and you're going to eat it. And again, this is, a lot of, some of what we talk about is repeat. The theme, but the theme continues. It's like, well, repeat it, because I think it's important for us to, there are some things that you need to hammer a lot. It's like, this is important, guys. This is important. This is why we keep bringing it up. But then, she came over and it was like, do you want to take a nap? Excuse me. And I'm thinking, no, I don't want to take a nap. And, well, here's food, and you're going to eat it. And, I'm like, I was so thankful that, after she, bought me the food and I ate it, and I was like, wow, I was even thinking about, my stomach, something kicked in. Then she was like, what do you, need to do? And then, of course, she asked me the next question. My immediate thought was, are you kidding me, right? But, she was like, have you had a shower yet? And, things like that. I'm thinking to myself, what are you trying to tell me? And, but it wasn't, she wasn't trying to tell me everything. And then it was like clicked in my head that I'm thinking, okay, I see what she's trying to do, get me back into routine. Now, eating breakfast is not part of my routine because I'm not a normal breakfast eater. But I found it, having somebody there to talk me through the things that I would normally do without thinking about it. I mean, we all get up in the morning. What's the first thing we do? Oh, we got to take care of, our, personal stuff. Oh, let's go brush our teeth, take a shower, get dressed. And I was sitting on my couch,
Well, you're just, it's like you're in a dream that you're not even in. My aunt was the same way for me, when she came and stayed with me for 2 weeks, and it was, here, eat this, maybe you should go lay down, you know, just, and because you don't think, you're not thinking right. You have huge brain fog, and to have people around you that kind of help you take care of yourself and make sure that you are taking care of yourself, because if there's nobody there and there's not that motivation to do it, then again, you're not going to be able to help anybody else down the line. You're going to end up sick. And actually, when you're in that type of stress, your immune system goes all haywire, and you can get sick. Things will arise that you never would have thought of.
I also found myself in some of those instances being in sort of like an autopilot. Because again, where I have, and again, I shared, they took shifts. Someone was there from, say like from 8 to noon, and somebody else came over from like, or 8 to 10, someone came over from 10 to noon, or, hey, I can stay here until noon, because somebody, yeah, I can come and I can stay until, 2, 3 o'clock. And, it was like this succession of people. Well, at the same time, where they were there taking care of me, to make sure that I was eating, that I was getting, some rest, that, as I said, if you need to talk, we can talk. If you don't want to talk, don't talk. And one side of my head was just, get out of my house and leave me alone. Just let me, just let me be by myself. However, the larger part of my head was, no, and I told them that when I finally went back to work, how grateful I was, for all of this. I found myself, like, you're in my house. I get it that you're here to take care of me. I found myself, wanting to play hostess. Like for some reason it was like, in the get out of my house was more of a, I don't want to be hostess right now. I don't want to make sure that you're, that you feel, welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I didn't want them to feel unwelcome, but you get it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think, you all get it. I wanted not to have to worry about someone else. And as I look back on it in hindsight, being 2020, that was the time that I needed to be completely selfish. And as I'm watching, like the nurse, for instance, she's in my kitchen, where's your silverware? Where are your plates? Where's your cups and everything? And I'm looking at her. And I'm pointing, and I'm thinking to myself, she's doing in my kitchen what I should be doing in my kitchen. She should be sitting on the couch and I should be on the kitchen getting things for her. And again, I'm just grateful. I joke about it now in a sense, but at the same time, I'm grateful for that reminder to take, you need to take care of self, because if you're not taking care of you, you can't take care of anybody else.
No, you can't. Like I said, when my aunt came down to stay with me, well, she had called the evening that Bobby had passed, and she's like, I'm getting the next flight down. I will be there in, a couple days. And I'm like, oh, no, you don't need to come. I'll be good. No. And she wasn't taking no for an answer. And 2 days later, she was there. And, I'm just so grateful that she was. And it kind of, in a way, came full circle, because when my first husband passed away, her mother, my grandmother, was within a few days just on the next flight to South Florida and stayed with me for a month. And, just not taking no for an answer, making sure that somebody was going to be there to make sure that I was going to be okay. And you really need to lean into it and let things like that happen, because people want to help you. And whether you are in a state of mind where you think you can do it yourself, you really can't.
And it's what, Stephanie Jose talks about, in the next section of the book where she, talks about restorative behaviors, things that we do to get us back to, and I will never say the word normal,
Yeah,
because
no, because
there is no normal after something like this.
there's no normal, and you're never going to be the same person you
No,
were
you're not.
prior to.
You're not. And she starts off the chapter with, releasing emotions, where basically it is okay to cry. It is okay to scream. It is okay to. How many times, during your loss did you find yourself apologizing for, if you like broke out in tears? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Actually, I didn't.
Oh, well,
Not me. Mm-mm, I didn't.
I did. I felt myself sometimes like if I got snippy with people, I would apologize. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. And I mean, it's something that I would normally do too if I, like came across, in a way that I didn't intend. Um, but I remember, when I was talking to the deputy, when I was talking to the lady from Victim Advocate, talking to some of my team members, I'm sitting on the couch one, just, and all of a sudden, like, the flood of emotions came over me, and I just started, crying. And I was like, I'm sorry. And they were like, it's okay. Cry if you want to. And of course, in my head, I'm like, how many times do I tell, people, that I work with, they're your emotions. You're entitled to them.
Mm-hmm.
Feel them.
Yeah, but when it's you.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
good at telling other people what to do, not good at following it when it's on the other, when
Yeah,
the shoe's on the other
no,
foot.
I know. I don't think I've ever apologized for losing it.
Yeah, I guess.
And I don't, I don't know why. Maybe it comes from losing my first husband years ago. I've been through something similar. Of course, this is way, way different and was way harder at this time. So I never apologize for losing it. I tried to hold it and it doesn't work, so you just have to let it go. You just have to. And yeah, you have to get your feelings out in the open. You can't hold them in. It's not good for you. It's not good for anybody.
Well, I hear, in my family, oftentimes, whether it's, Kira, or the, Aiden's siblings will apologize, for, I'm so sorry, I should be over this. No, one, you don't have to be sorry, and no, you don't have to get over this. Or my daughter, will sometimes, apologize, for not visiting. I'm like, you don't owe me an apology, and she says, well, actually, Mom, she says, it's hard. It's hard coming over, or visit, quite often. She, I'm still reconciling the fact that, well, that's what, I still live in the home where Patrick lived, and, Patrick's remains are there. And she says, it's hard coming over knowing that he's not in his room, that, his urn is on the shelf. And, again, I tell her, don't apologize. I understand. I understand.
Well, and I think that's where a couple of my in-laws, they don't visit because I think it's too hard for them.
Yeah.
And now that we're going through some of this, I think we did go through some of this a couple weeks ago. I don't know, unless I'm just having flashbacks of things that we talk about, and like she said, some of it is repeat, but when you hear it in a different context, maybe you're going to get it better than hearing it in another context. But part of that, self-care is, you do have to slow down and take care of yourself. Your body is going to react if you don't, and not all in good ways. and your body and your mind, they will remind you,
Mhm.
whether you want them to or not. Your body will remind you.
Especially when you're in that mindset, in terms of slowing down, where, your mind can race. It's going a mile a minute. Why is this happening? Like for a lot of us, it is the why. That's that's usually like I don't want to say the top one, but if I wanted to put something top tier, why?
Why?
And then, underneath that, all of the could I have, why didn't I see this coming? The coulda, the shoulda, the woulda, the what ifs. And, your, mind gets on this, merry-go-round where it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
like spinning out of control. And, yeah, it's important, to slow down and put the brakes on and, reconcile, she titled this book perfectly, Progressing Through Grief, is sit back and allow yourself to process, what's going on. Okay, this happened. It's real. Um, how do I make, how do you make sense out of nonsense? How do you reconcile something that wasn't supposed to happen? You know, um, what, um,
And you have to be open to the fact that you may never reconcile that.
I'm not a fan of the word never, you know, but it's a double-edged sword, because I can say, well, I'm never going to be normal again because,
Right.
we're always, at the same time, it is, well, what is normal anyway? You know, like, how do you even define normal? Um, so I know for me personally, I try very hard to stay away from the word never, because for me, um, it is very defeatist. So to say, I'm never going to get over this, here's where, the double-edged sword comes out. No, I will never, um, I will never stop missing my son or my grandson or anybody that's gone on.
Mm-hmm.
I will, always, instead of, never, um, changing it into, a positive spin. I will always remember him. Instead of I'm never going to forget him, I will always remember him. I'm never going to get over this. I'm always going to feel that loss. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so putting a different spin
Different
on it.
spin on it. Yeah. And also she mentions this, like you said before, eating well, and eating as best as you can, and eating whole foods. Yeah. This self care. I'm gonna get this on the website. This was from Dr. Wolfeld. Um, we reviewed one of his books in prior segments, um, from the Loss and Life Transition Center out in Colorado, and we want to get that up on the website, and maybe if we can get it into some sort of PDF that you can download, it might be helpful too. But eating well, keeping hydrated, and I think keeping hydrated is one of the hardest things, making sure that you're drinking the right fluids, water.
Yeah, because all too often, grief can lead us into, some unhealthy habits. The eating well. I went from, eating like a bird, as they said, not eating a lot, to, I was always in the fridge. Feels like a comfort food. And I think I shared. I'm not a fan of sugar. However, I found myself consuming a lot of, junk, donuts, or chocolate or, candy or, so, and I don't know why. I mean, let me rephrase that. I shouldn't say I don't know why. I really had to, take a step back and say, all right, all right. Is this is, this is your this is how you're processing grief. You need to, like, Bonnie, stop. Get back to, healthy eating. Or, she said exercising. I went from being in the gym 7 days a week to I could not tell you the last time I was in the gym. And then I find myself sometimes saying, look what you've done to yourself. Like, are you kidding me? Like, look what you've done to yourself. And recognizing that you've really, unconsciously, allowed that, I'm good at stuffing. Look at what your grief, is doing to you. And, once you step back and say, okay, all right, let me get myself back, let me get myself back in line. Let me get myself in check. I need to check myself and start doing those self-care things that are important.
That is important, but it's also important not to be so hard on yourself. And when you're going to slip back. It's not a straight line forward. You're going to go back and forth, and just you can't be hard on yourself because it's a hard process.
It is, but what's funny is, like, I have managed, to, like, when I look in the mirror and I was like, really, so, this is what, shoving junk food and not going to the gym has done to you. And, some of us, you hit on a keyword, not being so hard on yourself, because, when we are, dealing with grief, and then on top of that, we are, whether it's our self-esteem or our own mental health is taking a nosedive for us, of course, as the statistics say, we're putting ourselves at, like, contributing to that risk, that we're already
That risk
in
factor, yeah. Oh no, you are. And I mean, I went through it when I started eating, all that junk food, and went through a really bad depression for like 5 months. And when I, like, kind of was sitting there one day and I shook my head and I'm like, look what you're doing. You can't do this, and recognizing what was contributing to it, on top of, you're dealing with the grief, and then on top of that, you're doing more to intensify it, to exacerbate it.
Right.
I mean, for me, it was eating processed foods, not healthy foods. And once I realized that, and I wasn't really hard on myself, but in a way I was like, look, you lost 5 months. But then I just kind of like, okay, you lost 5 months. Let's get back on track.
I've developed the ability of, like, making a joke out of it. Like, when I look in the mirror, and I'm just like, oh, yeah, you packed on some pounds here. Okay, more to love. Or, I also jokingly say, oh, I guess that means I just got to go buy a couple of new outfits, but hey, I'm single. I don't have to worry about somebody fussing at me because I'm buying new clothing, or, I motivate myself by looking in my closet. Ridiculous sometimes, but I'll, look at my closet and, like, I'm going to be back in you. You know what?
Motivation factor.
I call them my inspiration. Like, certain things are my inspiration clothing, which helps with finding innovative ways to tackle grief, and take care of self. So whether it is, I'm going to buy this outfit, but I'm going to buy it a size smaller than my normal size. And, hang it, like, to the forefront of the closet, so that every time I look at it, it's like, okay, you bought this outfit. You need to be able to fit in it, get back to as close to your normal, your pre-loss self that you can,
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to go through a couple of these kind of fast because I think we've gone through them. But again, surrounding yourself with supportive friends. You and I have been extremely fortunate, with that. But remember, there's a lot of people out there that don't have, the support that we have, and just kind of be aware of that, just, be aware. And she also talks about laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And we've touched on this, a couple times too, that if you laugh, that doesn't mean you're not grieving.
Right.
And laughing can be cathartic.
It is. I find myself, Patrick was a comedian. He was a comedian. He was, the quick one-liners. And I find myself, sometimes where, she talks about celebrating your loved ones. And, I found it interesting that, the segment that she put about laughing was followed by celebrating your loved one. Because I find myself sometimes going to a web page that he had that included, his, when he was doing his stand-up routines, or just, he would do the, what are they called? Like this, not selfies. Selfies are just still. But he would do like short video clips of himself. And, they would be so hilarious. One where he was talking about his love of his bathrobes. You guys thought I was kidding about these robes. And he does the robe like this, and he goes, oh my God, those robes. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh my gosh, I miss that wit. So, with being able to see those, it's twofold. I get to laugh and celebrate, who he was at the same time.
Right. I put together, and I've been trying to show this for like the last 3 or 4 segments and I always forget. I put together 2 pictures, a picture of Patrick and a picture of Bobby, and I put them side by side, and they're both wearing aviator sunglasses. And I think Bobby, when that picture was taken, was about the same age of Patrick.
I remember when you told me that, because that was Patrick's signature look. The aviator glasses, not always with the hoodie, those aviator glasses, that and the robe. And like I said, when I saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh. To me, I saw that as, whether you would call it fate, that we'd be sitting here doing this show, and that we would meet, first of all,
right,
doing this show, and to have a picture of Bobby and Patrick, both with the aviator and almost the same expression on their faces.
Yeah, When I saw those, I was just like, oh man, I got to put these side by side. I got to show Bonnie this. Yeah, I mean, it's the universe works in mysterious ways. And when we had Bobby's celebration of life, my nieces, Haley and Josie, they were only like maybe 4 and 7. They see if Rob can find this picture. Hopefully I put it on there. They had taken sticks and spelled out Bobby's name in the leaves.
Oh, there it is.
And you can't. It's hard to tell, but if you look really close, you could see Bobby spelled out in sticks, and then those are my 2 great nieces' hands. And that's a very special picture, and they were so proud of doing that. Their grandmother came down and said, Tammy, and the girls were with them. And you gotta come and see what the girls did. And the girls were so proud of themselves for doing that for their uncle. It was really, really special. So, and we continue to. I mean, we always celebrate Bobby when we get the chance. And I'm sure you do the same.
Oh, yeah.
Patrick and Aiden, and you're going to be going back to Kansas.
I am
next week.
Yeah, next.
Or that week. Yeah, actually, it'll be this week. Next week.
When this show airs, when this show airs, I will be in Kansas.
Yeah.
When this show airs.
So, I'm sure there'll be some celebrating of Aiden too during that special time of, you got a granddaughter graduating?
One of my granddaughters is graduating, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I will be doing a graduation every year for the next I don't want to count. I stopped counting. How many grandchildren do I have? But yeah, it is, important, like for, we shared for Aiden's birthday, for instance, the family, did an escape room, a way of honoring Aiden because he was very good at, give him a Rubik's Cube and he could solve it and hand it back to you in no time. So yeah, keeping memories alive and doing things, if he were here, then what, or, and I say he, if my loved one was here, what would they want? We do a barbecue. Patrick's birthday's in June. We do a barbecue in June. That was his last birthday party. In a way, we honor him. Like I said, the escape room, for Aiden. Just something, that allows us, to smile and reflect, and, it doesn't always have to be, grief does not always have to be gloom and doom. It doesn't always have to be, negative. It doesn't always have to be dark. I mean, it's okay to, to miss that person, and, feel the loss, but at the same time, as you're feeling the loss, putting a positive spin on it.
Well, yeah, you want to do things that made them happy,
Mm-hmm.
and when you're doing that, even though you're grieving the loss, and that person's with you.
Always.
That person, think about that. That person is with you doing, maybe what you want them to do. You would want them to be doing.
Right.
And it does, it lightens you. It does. We have bonfires and pizza or barbecues, to remember Bobby.
She talks about things like, meditation and whatnot. And I find myself, where, it comes to I'm going to say abstractly in that realm, where I will, I'll be in my bedroom. My bedroom is, I could see the kitchen from my bedroom. And, I was so used to, middle of the night, Patrick would, raid the kitchen on whatever he was raiding the kitchen on. And sometimes, I will sit back and I will allow myself to process a memory of, all right, so it's 2:00 in the morning, and about this time he'd be coming into the kitchen to get, whatever. I have a nephew that lives, that shares my house with me now. My nephew came out to the kitchen one day, and I looked around the corner and I told myself, "That's my nephew." He's as tall as Patrick was. He's not. Patrick, had some. I don't want to call him bulk. He wasn't fat. My nephew's thin. Patrick was not thin. So sometimes I look around the corner, I was like, "Is that you?" And he'll respond back, because I have no problem acknowledging her. Sometimes I look around the kitchen and I see Pat in the kitchen. Or, you walk through and you chit chat with him. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, and there's different ways, there's different types of meditation. You've got guided imagery, mindfulness, movement meditations like Tai Chi and yoga. I go in spurts with doing yoga, daily meditations, inspirational written thoughts. You know what? I have these 2 books that I use, and I try and keep on track. And there's times I'll miss 3 or 4 or 5 days, and I go back, and it has a little nice ribbon bookmark. But 2 of them that I really like, and they have the days on them, May 10th or May, whatever. One of them is the Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. And you read through his excerpt for the day, and at the end of it, he has 3 or 4 points for you to meditate on. And I really like that. I've been doing that off and on, and for the last couple of years, I am trying to be more consistent this year with that. And then also one that I really like, and actually I bought this because I loved the cover of the book was this really nice leather book, and it was from Billy Graham, and it's called Hope for Each Day. And each day he has, his little thing, and then at the bottom of each page is a little hope for that day. And for me, I find if I can start my day that way, sitting on the back porch with a cup of coffee, do my little guided meditation, read my little excerpt for Billy Graham, it kind of, I find that it helps me start the day a whole lot better than days when I skip it.
I think for me, when I think of, daily meditations or, daily, those inspirational sayings that, people have, interestingly for me, the two that resonate with me the most are two that Patrick wrote. And again, like I said, Patrick was so it's like, dude, you are so articulate. It's like, it's the one thing I miss about him. But one, where, he talked, to me it spoke to, actually both of them, speak to, the journey that we're on and stressors that we deal with. And the first one, I know I'm going to get them a little wrong or get it wrong. But he talks about how, facing life is like facing a tiger. And I'll share it next time, it's like, I want to make sure I get this right. But it's like, sometimes, you're the king of the jungle. The next day you're just lunch. Or something like that. And I know I did not do it justice, but the first time I saw this, and mind you, this is something that I didn't see until after he was gone, but I was like, he has, a valid point. Sometimes you are the, or think of life as a jungle, sometimes you're the king of the, or a lion, sometimes you're the king of the jungle, sometimes you're lunch, but the other one, his sayings is, and I had it put on, my cup here, where he talked about life being a series of moments. And, there are good times and there are bad times. And, sometimes it seems as if, when we're in those bad times, it's like all we need to do is to remember to pull up our last good memory and, basically, stand in the knowledge that something good is going to happen again. And like I said, I'll share it. I'm looking at this like, wow, he, hit a nail right on the head that, just because we're going through negative times, they're not going to last.
No, they're not. We will come out on the other side. But, it is a journey. It's just, it's a journey.
It is.
And it's not an easy one, but, again, none of us are alone in this journey. If, it may take a little bit more effort for some people to reach out to find those people, to help you through. But, there's a lot of people out there that are going through it different ways. They're in different places, but there's always the right person out there to help you. And like I've said a few times, the universe works in mysterious ways because, what I started going through with my journey and then how we met, and how that kind of, and it really didn't even though it kind of would have started out as a business kind of sort of foundation volunteer kind of thing, it like kind of jumped all that.
To me, it never felt like that.
No, it really never was. I can think it just kind of like skipped all that and went immediately to a friendship and a bond, and and a lot of times we can think of things, or we have things in our mind of what we're going to do, and the other person it's the same thing. It's right there, you know, and you're going to find people like that, and that's what's going to help you get through this, and help other people, you know, when you can.
You know, sometimes, to that point, helping other people and not knowing, when the universe is going to align itself. You know, sometimes, like, our intuition just tells us somebody needs help. How are you doing? Or, what's up? Is all it takes. But, those three words, can I help you? How are you doing? Are very simple, words, and that may be the very thing a person needs to hear.
And that's true. And if you do know somebody that, if it's over your pay grade, there's helplines out there. If it's something immediate, please call 911. You've got the suicide helpline. For veterans, you press 1. There's help out there. There's help out there, and we don't have to do this alone.
We don't.
So we want to thank you for joining us again. We'll get to chapter 3 next time, and just please always remember there's hope.
Always hope.
Thank you.